Welcome to the podcast, Now That I'm Engaged, How Do I Get Married? I'm your host, Kevin Dennis.
And I'm August Joker, co-host and brand manager at Fantasy Sound Event Services.
In addition to leading the charge at Wedding IQ, I also run Fantasy Sound Event Services, a lighting and entertainment company based in Livermore, California, that I founded over 35 years ago.
Each week on this podcast, we'll explore a new corner of wedding planning so you can prepare for your I-dos without the stress.
From budgeting to booking vendors to the day of drama.
Let's talk smart wedding planning.
All right, folks, welcome to another episode of Now That I'm Engaged, How Do I Get Married? We obviously have August with us today, but we're really excited because we have Janice Carnevale. Did I say it right? I think
Great
I
job.
did. I'm close enough. Perfect. All right, she's going to be here to talk to us about how to have the best wedding morning and to be on time for your ceremony, which I feel is very, very important. But before we do it, Janice, can you jump in and tell us a little bit about yourself and how we got you here today?
Absolutely. Thank you, Kevin. And thank you, August, for having me today. My name is Janice. I have been a wedding planner in the DC area since 2002. I started my own company in 2006, and I have been planning about 12 to 18 weddings every year since then. I also am an author of The Elegant at Home Wedding, which is a downloadable ebook that you can find on my website. And I have a background in catering and restaurants. So I really have a specific logistical mindset. But I think that is kind of the long and the short of it. Otherwise, you'll find me at local sporting events here in DC.
I will say I got to go speak at Wedding Wire World when Wedding Wire was a thing back in the day in DC. And we got my coworker and I went to a Washington Nationals game, and it was the best crab sandwich I've ever eaten in my entire life. So was at the Washington Nationals. So you're very lucky to get to go to their baseball game. So anyway, all right. So we're going to get going. What is the first thing someone should consider when prepping their wedding morning timeline?
The first question I ask couples when I'm working with them is, are you doing a first look? Because doing a first look is going to be kind of the choose your own adventure starting point. The second kind of variable in having a solid wedding morning timeline is, do you have to travel anywhere, and how many places? Are we going from, your hotel room to your hotel ballroom, or are we getting in a limo on a bus and heading that way? So that is the first kind of component that will help drive all the other timing for your wedding morning in order to make it successful.
Amazing.
Yeah, so I that's definitely something you got to get down first, or else everything else is just all for naught. So what kind of vendors do you typically like to include when we're building this kind of timeline in the morning?
Well, it's very important if you have, and I'm going to generally speak about couples that have one bride and one groom, and that are not any specific cultural persuasion. But so take that caveat, here at the top. But you definitely, the most important is to be very clear with your hair and makeup folks about how many people expect to have which services, and then what time you need to end. And I usually, one of my little tips and tricks is the time between when beauty ends and when a bride is getting into her dress. I like to leave a 15-minute gap, because if you have matching pajamas or matching robes, or you want to do a champagne toast, that is when we do that photo. And it needs to be in the timeline, because otherwise it sets us back a little bit. So that's why it's so important for beauty to know exactly how many people and what your end time is. And usually for me, end time, if you are doing a first look, end time is usually 4 hours before the start of your ceremony. And I'm happy to get into I'm happy to rattle off a bunch of T-minus 30 minutes here for you, but
yes, please do.
that-
Yeah, I want to know what's in that 4-hour period, because that it feels like a lot of time, but we always know on the wedding that time is just always escaping us. So yeah, what goes on in that time frame?
Yes, you're so, just on Saturday. I brought the parents actually wanted to do a room reveal, and so I brought the parents down, and they're like, it's 7:30 already, and I'm like, I know, I'm sorry. I'm sorry the time is going so fast. But I do want to go back to beauty real fast. So if beauty services come back to you and say, okay, in order to achieve this, we need to start at 6 a.m. or some time that you are unhappy with, the solution may be, can you hire more artists? Instead of having one person doing hair and one person doing beauty, can you have 2 people doing hair and 2 people doing beauty? And that gets through your group of folks a lot faster, and you will not have to get up at 0 dark 30 on your wedding day, which most people don't want to do. Okay, so if you're doing
more often than you think. I mean, we had a bride the other day where she said she got up at like 2 or 3 in the morning to start getting ready before her hair and makeup, and we felt bad because even though it was a daytime event, she was just so tired once we were kind of hitting that the climax or going down with the event, and she was kind of going down with it. So no, that's such a good point though. Yeah, hiring more artists for sure.
Yeah, and there are so many things I love about a brunch wedding, most importantly the food, because it is my favorite meal. But
I agree.
Your day is starting early for a brunch wedding. Unless you have no wedding party, you have no one else doing hair and makeup with you, caveats, you can always not get up at 2 or 3 in the morning. So so we're finishing hair and makeup 4 hours before. Then for about 15, maybe 30 minutes, we are doing our PJ photos. You're eating lunch if you haven't already eaten lunch, but if you are going to eat lunch after beauty ends, you need to make sure you have backup lipstick. And it is a worthy, and if the ladies, if the folks, if the people, if the humans getting ready with you are also going to eat a meal, and sidebar, we're going to come back to, you have to eat. Then they all should just spend the $20 and get the lipstick, unless it's their own lipstick and they already have it, and that's fine too. But just spend the $20 and get the lipstick so that you can, reapply after you've had a solid lunch. So in that 30 minutes, so we're now 4 hours before ceremony time. We are eating lunch. We are doing our PJ photo, our champagne clink photo. We're doing a TikTok dance, like whatever that is. And then whoever is going to help the bride, get into their gown or their outfit, they need to go get dressed, because they need to, you probably, I mean, this is personal choice, but you probably don't want that person in their pajamas or casual wear in those photographs when you are getting into your wedding day attire. You probably also want them dressed. So those folks, now they don't have to necessarily have their shoes on, or they don't necessarily have to have all their jewelry on. Like, this is a little bit of a quick turn, for that person or persons to go get dressed. So 3.5 hours before the wedding ceremony start time, we're getting dressed, and I give an hour for this. And people look at me, some people, not all people, some people look at me like I'm crazy, like August is looking at me right now. I'm just kidding, that wasn't crazy.
It's just a curiosity, I'm just wondering what's piled in there.
Yeah, so I mean, first of all, it never starts on time. So this is like where this is where we're padding, right? This is where I'm padding the timeline a little bit. And then once you're a photographer, first of all, some dresses are easy to get into, and some dresses are not. And some undergarments are easy to get into, and some undergarment / body tape plans are not. And I just plan for it to go badly, and then we have time, and then we're ahead of schedule. So I give an hour for dressing. And also, once you've kind of gotten as covered up as you feel comfortable with your gown, your photographer is going to pop in there, and then everything goes real slow, right? Oh, fluff the veil. Oh, tweak the earring, you know, put your bracelet on, put it on again. And it's not a criticism. It's just a fact. The photographer is slowing things down. And then once we're done, they're going to take a few portraits, right? Go stand by the window with the beautiful soft light coming through, you know, the gauzy curtain, holding your bouquet, like looking, you know, staring out onto the horizon. Like we're going to get those gorgeous pictures during that time as well. So that gets us to 2.5 hours before the ceremony. This is when I would like to be doing first look and couple portraits. Now, if you have to travel somewhere, you need to build in, you know, your travel time at this point in the timeline. So 2.5 hours before the ceremony, I want to do first look and I want to do couple portraits, and I want to give the photographers an hour. Again, this is slightly padded. If they're done early, great. Maybe this hour, maybe the 60 minutes includes your travel time somewhere one way or the other. But I like to give an hour for these photos. Some people don't want it. Some people split it up between, we'll do an hour of a couple portraits now, and we'll do a half hour of couple portraits now. We'll do a half hour couple portraits later, golden hour, nighttime, whatever. But generally I'm giving an hour. So then we are at 90 minutes, T-minus 90 minutes before your ceremony, and we're doing wedding party portraits. Bridesmaids, groomsmen, etc., all of your wedding attendants, flower girls, ring bearers, all those folks. If you have that, if you don't have that, you can cut this section out and move everything forward in time. So I give 30 minutes for wedding party portraits. That's usually enough. If you have an extremely large wedding party and you want, you know, individual photos with the couple and each person like separately together, etc., you might need a little bit more time to talk to your photographer about that. 60 minutes prior to ceremony start time, I want to do immediate family. And to me, immediate family is parents, siblings and partners, if they have them, nieces and nephews, if you have them, and grandparents. This should be easy to do with a small-ish, 12-ish, 16-ish amount of people. This should be easy to accomplish in 30 minutes. Now we are 30 minutes prior to the ceremony, and guess what? You get to relax. You get to relax. You get to.
Okay. I was wondering when that was going to happen.
Yeah. So my goal is for the couple and the wedding party and the parents to be doing nothing 30 minutes prior. Now, if it's a Jewish ceremony, we're going to sign the ketubah during this 30-minute break. But otherwise, this is like chill, reapply lipstick, drink some water. I've started scheduling bio breaks, bathroom breaks, and snack breaks for couples, because then you have a plan for it, and they're not, how many times does a bride slip away to the restroom and you're like, oh shoot, we were just about to do toasts. And now, going to the bathroom in a wedding dress is not always an in and out, minute, 90-second situation. It takes a little longer.
No,
so
it's a 3-4 team process.
And people are talking to you in the bathroom, and like, it's, you're not, you're being stopped along the way by your loved ones, which is perfectly understandable. So that is what we're doing during the last 30 minutes. And then it's ceremony time, which, by the way, should be what you are putting on your invitation. The publicized start time should be the actual start time, generally speaking.
If you don't want to irritate the guests.
Or like you need to have hospitality.
Yeah.
I think
recommend like the false start time. Is that something you like to do or no?
Well, so it's funny, Kevin, I think Kelly McWilliams from Florida, the planner. Yeah. So she coined the phrase warm welcome, and I love this. I love like giving this 30-minute time. Yeah. That's so fun, right? And it makes it intentional. Yeah. It sounds fun. Now, she is in a market where almost all of her guests are arriving on a bus. So she has like extreme control over that. Mm-hmm. That is not the DC market. We have local people, we have people on buses, we have people lifting from a hotel, etc. So generally, I
And
do not.
We're in the same market.
Gotcha.
It's the same here.
Gotcha. Yeah. So generally, August, to answer your question, I do not mislead people on the invitation, but that can be a decision, a personal decision, if you know your friends and family and you know that they are tardy to everything all the time.
Yeah, because that was going to be my question, because back when I was at a venue, we would obviously do the same thing, put the decision in their hands, but it would always be under the disclaimer, you know your family and friends best, and if you know they're tardy, then maybe this is a good idea. But then sometimes it didn't work out, like everyone had it together that day and everyone did show up on time, so we had this very awkward 20-30 minute period where everyone's just kind of waiting for things to get rolling.
Yeah, but if you have, like you were saying, Janice, cocktail, like some kind of like, well, like a drink, or it doesn't even have to be alcoholic, just something where the people and the guests can gather outside the sun if it's a summer wet, or outside the cold if it's a winter wedding, so people have a place to gather. And I think that people enjoy that a little bit as well. So
I think, you're both correct. And if you decide to publish a different ceremony start time on your invitation than you actually plan on, because you are concerned about a large portion of guests arriving late, you need to have hospitality ready for the guests to arrive on time. And here in DC, on time means if I say 5:30 on the wedding invitation, I will have guests rolling in at 5. So if you say 5:30 on the invitation, but you really mean 6 because a lot of guests are late, you still need to anticipate some guests at 5. And to Kevin's point, if it's hot, you need to keep them cool. You need to keep them in the shade. If it's cool outside, you need to have, hot cider. You need to have some kind of hospitality, pashminas, heat lamps, etc. Because they could be there potentially for an hour with not a lot to do.
Yeah, I always feel like, I always err on the side of guest experience. And if couples go with the guest experience and their guests they continue to talk about, like my wife and I got married 17 years ago, and we we had a New Year's Eve wedding, and I was like, all right, I wanted like drunk food because we were going to ring in the new year, and you don't normally. So it was like, I was trying to do something, but the venue goes, just get some take and bake pizzas. We'll bring them out. People still to this day talk about the pizzas that came out. And it was like, it cost me $200, like additional, but it's again, guest experience kind of, things that you can do and it's the same thing. You're bringing them in early. And if they're standing around, they're miserable. That's not a good guest experience.
Yeah, and that's what they're going to remember. They're going to remember that things did not start on time, and they're never going to blame the couple. Probably not. They're going to blame the venue. They're, August, like they're going to blame the venue. They're going to blame the planner, the caterer. The blame will fall on the hired folks, not necessarily on the couple themselves. And so I do think also part of that hospitality is communicating to those earlier arrivers, we're actually starting the ceremony at this certain time, and maybe that's like on a poster board, or maybe that's just you have some family members greeting guests at the warm welcome and letting them know.
Yeah. But I think it's also like, I'm thinking about it more like it's really important that you keep them in an area. Cause like say it was a hotel wedding and you don't lose them all to the hotel bar. And next thing you know, you're trying to fish them out of the bar and they don't want to leave because they just got a cocktail, it's definitely having some kind of holding area or something that works, that's comfortable and inviting and not wanting them to run to the hotel bar.
And there's music playing, there's some ambiance being created. So yeah, there's definitely things that you can do to like I said, to welcome those early arrivers.
And so I had so many questions went through when you were going through your T-4 hours kind of thing. So like we have a lot of Asian weddings here in Northern California. So the tea ceremony is very similar to the signing the ketubah. So I would, you'd have to plan, because sometimes the tea ceremonies will last, 30, 45 minutes. So that, so you're backing up things. And then I was thinking like those weddings that have massive bridal parties. So having multiple makeup artists or whatever.
Or sponsors,
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then I was even thinking about if it's
I'm unclear what does August mean by
Filipino?
A sponsor?
So Filipino,
we're pretty diverse out here, so we work with a lot of different cultures.
So a lot of cultures.
Oh, I love.
I joke
love
we're a
learning
huge melting
something.
pot. Yeah, and so in the Filipino culture, like the godparents may sponsor a part of the wedding, and that's their gift to the couple. Is they're paying for the cake, or they paid for the cocktail hour, they paid for the bar, whatever it. Every sponsor is pretty different. They all have different things that they give for. Yeah, and it's just kind of what they can provide. But that's kind of
one wedding I had. It was a Filipino wedding, and I think in total, like including the the wedding party and the sponsors' parents, everyone that was walking down the aisle, it ended up being like 45, 46 people, and I had boutonnieres and corsages for every single one of them. So it was getting everyone lined up in the right order, making sure everyone's wearing everything, and then sending them all down. So that is definitely something that would require some buffer time and a morning timeline.
Yeah. Well, and because the sponsors too, they walk down the aisle for the ceremony to get recognized, but they also get introduced into the room for the reception. So so the most I've ever done was 63 people with the bridal party at a Filipino, but it was also a 320 it was a huge Filipino wedding. But it's just I was thinking about that, but then I started thinking of same-sex both brides wearing traditional gowns, like that must bring a whole nother level of makeup artistry. Yes, I was like, this is so crazy.
Yeah, so two brides is interesting, right? Are you going to get ready in the same room, or are you going to get ready in different rooms? And if you're going to get ready in different rooms, but you both want let's call them the primary hair person, the primary makeup person, is that person moving? And then that takes a little bit more time. But again, a really great beauty professional will know that, and they will build that into their schedule of, okay, this is the 15 minutes where I'm moving all of my makeup stuff to this room, or we're moving the women around. And that it all is logistics, right? And it all just requires, thinking through. And then obviously with two grooms, it's, the beauty necessarily isn't for them, but they might have family members that they're accommodating in the morning as well that need to be ready in time for those either wedding party or immediate family photos.
And some of the same-sex male weddings I've done, they've had makeup artists. Sometimes they're more diva-ish than the women, so they really like their. And so it's so many variables that go into the T-4 hours. I love the T-4 hours. I'm never going to forget that. So,
awesome,
Janice. I have a question too. So, just kind of all-encompassing question, but I'm kind of wondering, because I've never been with a full service planner, so I don't sometimes know what goes into that company per company, but do you include the morning timeline as part of something that you do, or is this just advice that you give your couples? And like, how involved do you get with the other vendors, when you're creating a timeline?
Great question, August. Thank you. So I offer all levels of service. I offer full planning, I offer partial planning, and I offer management services. And all of them get the same run of show, the same type of run of show. And it starts from when they wake up to when the guests leave and the loadout concludes. So everyone is getting this amount of detailed questioning from me. Now, with full planning clients, we are discussing it, for 9, 10, 12, 14, 16 months, versus, and same with partial planning clients. But with the management clients, we are coming in around the 8-week mark, and we gather up all your contracts and we read through them and we start to put together the run of show. And that's where I start to have questions like, okay, the hotel contract says that cocktail hour starts at 5, but the DJ contract starts at 5:30. Now that's not a morning issue. Do you know what I mean? But once I start to read through all the all the details, then I can kind of see like, okay, where are the red flags that we need to correct? And that's why we do this at 8 weeks out, is because it gives us time to course correct with all the vendors. So all the vendors get included in my timelines, lighting in and out, fabrications in and out, floral in and out, floral delivery to your hotel. If you need your personals and your styling blooms, if you want to do a flat lay, that needs to be on your morning timeline. And you need to make sure that you tell the floral designer about that in advance, because they might charge you a little bit extra fee to deliver to an additional place or to deliver a little bit earlier in the day. So just to like, so it's not, yes, absolutely. But like, it's one of those like surprise, if you wait, to the end to figure that kind of thing out, like plan for it in advance, basically.
Yeah.
So all the vendors are, there sure are. But every vendor is considered in my timelines, and all of my clients get the same level of like detail and attention to detail in their runs of show.
All right. So take T-4 hours out of it. Like, are there things that we can do like the day before, the week of, the month of, leading up to it, that's going to help that morning be smoother and run better?
Planning for your meals, planning for your beverages. What's happening with breakfast? Do we need coffee? Do we need juice? Are we doing mimosas? Do we just need cases of water? Who's bringing disposables? Are you going to be drinking straight from plastic cups, or plastic bottles? Are you pouring things into glassware or into disposable cups? Who's bringing the straws? Straws, very, very, very important to lipstick situations. Who is doing you can delegate out your playlist. I always think it's a little creepy, to be honest, when I arrive at the hotel suite and there's no music on. And maybe just because I love music very much, and I would have it on all the time if I could, but you get in there and you're like, what's happening? Where's the background vibes?
Weird silence. It's just a weird silence.
It is.
Yeah.
So you can delegate that out.
The whole vibe, man. Like, you need something going on.
I agree completely. And so that's something you can do in advance. That's something you can delegate out to someone else. Ordering your food. What are we having for breakfast? What are we having for lunch? This is not the day to try and subsist on mimosas and croissant. That is not today. Today we need to have yogurt. We need to have nuts. We need to have a real sandwich or a real salad. Yes, eggs. Eggs are so great. I love some eggs. Put it in a quiche, hard boil it. Don't care. You have to get protein into your body, because you are not eating until like 7:30 at night. So we have to make sure. And that's what I'm asking people about this 8 weeks out, and they're like, oh, I don't know. And I'm like, well, start to think about it now. Are we doing like, and this is a great job for dads. Oftentimes go to the grocery store, pick up the party platters, bring them in. Like, dad often doesn't have much to do. He's in the morning. He's just like waiting for whatever, waiting to put on his tuxedo. So, this is a good dad job, or a good brother job, good uncle job, good, whatever. Those are the things that come to mind immediately, is like beverages, food, and playlist. And then if you are going to do the PJ, like if you got gifts for your wedding party as PJs or robes, please steam them beforehand.
Oh.
Please steam them before people put them on your wedding morning.
Like, don't take them out of the package and throw them on.
Straight out of Amazon. There's creases and everything,
Yeah. Your photographer is not going to take the time to fix that. They could, but they're not going to. So please, steam your little pajamas, steam bridesmaids dresses, steam mom's dress. Make sure that the correct professional is preparing the wedding dress. If it needs to be, people will ask me, Janice, will you steam my dress? Nope. Sure won't steam your dress. That is a huge, that is a giant pile of money right there hanging on a hanger. And I am not getting near, I'll put on gloves if I have to handle the dress. If I have to like take it out of a bag and hang, try to hang it on the hook and, change out to the custom hanger, which like really is a trend that went away, from,
Yeah, I feel like it's gone.
from 10 years ago.
Yeah.
That's completely gone. And now the photographers are always like, is there a better hanger around here? But anyway,
You need need a hanger, man.
you do, but also there's often no place to hang. It's hotel rooms are tough. So those are some things that you can do in the days and weeks leading up to help have a great wedding day morning.
Wow.
Honestly, it's so funny you say that, because I was in a wedding last summer, and it was the first time I had been in a wedding party, a bridesmaid, and everything you're saying is everything we dealt with. And you think that like few of us who were in the party were in the wedding industry, but we didn't think about those things, because she also hadn't been in a wedding before either. And I was the designated steamer. I was steaming literally everything the night before and the day of, and it was kind of a lot. So I'm like, hey guys, I still need to do my makeup and hair, and we're getting a little behind, but the morning it does get away from you. It's truly crazy.
Yeah,
it does get away from you.
And I'm a big believer on the protein. You got to have something of some substance, because you could tell. Like, I had a bride this last fall, and she was the sweetest thing all the way through, and she was the devil on the day of. And I finally looked at her and I go, "Do you need to eat? Are you hangry? Like what? Like you?" Because and she goes, "I am starving." And so finally, I went in the kitchen because I knew the chef, and I was like, "I need something for the bride that she can eat that is of some, not crap,
like hearty."
Yeah. And so I brought her some food, and she ate, and she was like a different person after. It was just crazy, because they're eating donuts, or like you said, croissants, or just
fruit, like light
empty
stuff.
I feel like fruit would be better than donuts, but
that's true.
It's refined sugar and white flour. That's what they're consuming, and it's not sustainable, especially because your adrenaline is going like the whole morning. I mean, at least a little bit. And here's a small aside: who's got the meds, and who knows the breathing exercises?
I
won't say that I mean, like, there's, when I start to see anyone, because it's not just a bride sometimes, anyone who's like pacing, like can't sit down, can't sit still. I'm like, do you want to do some box breaths together? And they're like, sometimes they're like, what the heck is that? And I'm like, oh, you sweet child who doesn't have any anxiety. Oh, okay, good. So breathe in for 4 counts, hold for 4 counts, out for 4 counts. and then hold for everybody. Yeah. No, I have a Sleepy Time podcast, side note, that I listen to, and she's talking me through breathing. But yeah, I mean, if sometimes, myself included, this is the most anxious you've ever been in your whole life, and you don't know what's happening to your body. You're like, I'd feel some kind of way, but I don't know what it is, because it's never happened before, and I don't know how to deal with it. And so, like, knowing your protocols, like for me, it's music, it's breathing, and then it's the medication if it gets to that point. But like, you need to know, your protocols of how to relieve stress, how to relieve anxiety, and how to just, calm your heart, basically.
Yeah. And so, I mean, just again, someone that went through it at 17, I've been in the wedding industry for years, but it's so weird being on the other side. I called it the other side, but being, standing up there, because it's different. I still to this day, like, looking out, I don't remember anybody being in the audience of our wedding. Like, I don't know why. And then it was like walking as the recessional happened. I was like, oh my God, like, in my head, I was like, but I did not see any of them walking in, and I didn't see any of them while we were up there. And yeah, anyway, it's an outer body experience. It really is. So
yeah, absolutely.
Right. I feel like you were extremely thorough, but what are the things that people like overlook or forget?
I think they just don't. I think that everything takes longer than you think it's going to. This goes back to, like, I have this conversation with transportation specifically, but this really does apply to literally everything on a wedding day. a minibus or a coach bus, they're going the speed limit. They are stopping at yellow lights. They need time to unload and to load. Like everything, it's a 5-minute drive. It's not for a bus, my friend. It's not for a bus.
No.
It is a 15-minute each way trip. And that is why we need 2 buses, because we can't make, anyway, side note, you know, let's have a podcast about transportation. So everything takes longer than you think it's going to. And that is why it is T-minus 4 hours, because that is your buffer. And I promise you, you would rather be done and ready and looking around the room or, you know, chatting with your friends than being like, oh my God, we're behind. How are we going to catch up? Like, that is not the feeling you want to have in your heart when you walk down that aisle. You want to be relaxed. You want to be chill, and you want to know that everything has gone smoothly and will continue to go smoothly, because we're starting the ceremony on time. And that really is the trickle down to everything staying on time for the rest of your reception.
Yeah. I agree. And that's a good idea on the transportation, because that is, you know, sometimes they're like, you know, everybody's not ready to load the bus at the same time, and everything is going, and then you being in a bigger city, like, that slows everything down, just traffic on the day of, and you never know what's going on. And like, we're in San Francisco, and it's always like, what the hell's going on in San Francisco on this day? Because it, you know, from our office,
run into a parade or something.
Yeah, you never know. It's like, there's parades, there's bike rallies, there's this, there's that,
a marathon.
There's a baseball game or a basketball game, and you just don't know, and that causes so much more traffic in different pockets of the city. You know, it's insane. So,
yep, absolutely.
I like the transportation. Yeah, I love it. All right, I think we hit it all. Do you think feel like we hit everything? I don't feel like we're missing anything.
But she said she had a crazy story for us.
I know. So. I wanted to get to the crazy story before we go too long.
Well, sure. So thank you both for having me. It's been such a treat to chat with you both. And I love your pod. It's so good. And you have really great guests on. And I do think we covered everything. You know, I am very Googleable. You can find me on all the socials. You can find me on the internet, on Al Gore's internet. But,
Al Gore's
you know,
internet.
So if you have, August doesn't understand that. That's fine. It was for you and I, Kevin.
I know Al Gore is. It's okay.
But anyway, if you have more questions, if any listener has any questions, email me. I'm addicted to my email. Happy to chat through anything with you. Okay, so crazy story times.
Well, real quick. We'll have all her information on the show notes, and you'll be able to contact her as well. So make it easy on you guys. Okay, I'm ready for the story.
Okay.
I'm buckled up. I got my popcorn.
Oh gosh, now I feel like it's getting built up too much. So certainly, you know, I'm sure you both get this question as well. Like, from, you know, you're at a cocktail party with like normal non-industry people. Oh, tell me about the bridezillas. Tell me about the worst things. And the worst thing for me, and maybe for both of you too, is always the weather. And so we had, I had an at-home wedding in Fairfax, Virginia, in I think it was June of 2012, but the year I might be off by 1 year or 2 years. And someone on Facebook, like a weather Facebook page for DC was like, we're going to have a derecho. And I was like, what is a derecho? And then a friend of mine who's from Indiana is like, oh no, we're going to have a derecho. And I'm like, okay, someone really needs to tell me what a derecho is. A derecho is...
Yeah, I have no idea.
Well, because you don't live in the plains. So a derecho is a thunderstorm with like hurricane/tornado force winds. So
oh my gosh.
It's not like as severe as a hurricane, but it's so this was Friday, and Saturday was the ceremony offsite at a church, reception in the backyard. We actually had 2 different tents. We had a frame tent that was for dancing and for the buffet. And then we had a pole tent that was for the dinner tables. And then cocktail hour was by the pool. It was midnight before it was safe for me to leave my house and go check on the property. But the family had already called me and said the big tent is down. So, yeah. So my husband drives me out there, and roads are closed, trees are down, like people are swarming the late night gas stations, like buying water, filling up their tanks with gas, filling up, the portable gas containers. We get out to the house, and sure enough, I mean, it's not like I thought he was lying to me. The dad was absolutely telling the truth. The big tent was completely down. That tent is rated for 75-mile-an-hour winds.
I was going to ask, most of them are like 75 to 100, yeah.
Oh, goodness. Yeah.
Yeah. So the frame tent was still up, which is typical of a frame tent. They are, sturdier than pole tents. But all the decor that we had bistro lighting, and we had swag drapes. Not a full liner, but like, kind of the every other panel situation happening. All that was down. The chandeliers everything was down in the big tent, obviously. So I'm on the phone with the tent provider. I had contacted the tent provider that afternoon and said, we're getting a derecho. And of course she said, what's a derecho? And she had
like everyone else does.
Yeah, exactly. It was completely
something new today. So
you know what? You taught me about sponsors at Filipino weddings. I'm teaching you about weather phenomena. So
okay.
So I had been in contact with the tent company, and we had hired this particular company because they had the best inventory. They had the most beautiful tents. They were great to work with. They've since been absorbed by a larger company. But they were based in Charlottesville, which is a 2.5-hour drive in a normal car on a normal day from Fairfax. So I get there at midnight. Cell service is not great, like when power is out, and also it's a cell network of a decade ago. So I get a hold of the tent company, and I'm like, this is what we need, throw an extra generator on the truck. We need to replace all of this. We need to replace all of that. There had been a tree in the yard that that was like literally in between the two tents. They had recently planted it. They didn't want to move it for the wedding. And it was probably, I would say, close to 6 inches in diameter. And it was completely sheared off at the base. And it was like, somewhere else in the yard. But I mean, wedding vendors, wedding pros are truly problem solvers, and we are resilient. And they were there. The tent company was there by 6 a.m. And we had a new tent up, and all the decor was replaced, and we had a successful load in, and we started on time. And if you didn't know about the bad weather the night before, you would have been none the wiser.
Wow.
It worked. It was still magical in the end, but that was definitely the worst story I have.
That is the worst story I think I've heard in a long time. But it's just like the fact we had Andrew from isn't it ironic?
Ironic, yeah.
Ironic weather. So I don't know if you've heard of him, but he goes out and he helps people. So he wasn't around back then, but he would have helped know that this derecho thing is coming, and to be wary and to prep, and and so it goes back to his service is worth every penny, because he's really looking out for where the weather is in that moment in time. Because even like we live in, we're 45 minutes east of San Francisco, and so grapes grow well here, and that's it's all wine wherever we are, and we have a small little wine country out here. But like even in our town, you go out to Wente Vineyards, which is one of the big vineyards out here, the weather can be 15 to 20 degrees different where it is. So it just anyway, weather is the worst part.
There's a lot of microclimates when you get into places with elevation, for sure. And if your listeners have not heard of Ironic Reports, they need to start following him, and they need to look into his services, because, and you can cut this if you want, but if the National Oceanic Administration, the NOAA, I forget what all the letters stand for, National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, if it's defunded, there's no weather apps left. It's all going to be based off of private satellite service. And if you were going to have an outdoor wedding, you are going to have to employ a private meteorologist. Because the free apps are not going to be. Yeah, it's crazy. It's terrifying.
Yeah, and my wife and I argue over the weather all the time because my app will say one thing and his says the other. So I was asking him how can I be, what's a better app so I can be right and win, and because I'm competitive. And he said go to NOAA. NOAA's that's where you're gonna go, to the website, because that's where you'll get the good stuff. You won't get it on the weather app. Yeah.
Well, they're all just they're taking all the free information that our tax dollars pay for at NOAA. And then they're putting it on, yes, it's a free app, but they're making you look at those terrible ads. So anyway.
Yeah.
Yes. You're going to need a private meteorologist in the future. Add that line item to your budget.
Yeah, that's crazy. It is.
Crazy. Well, Janice, Andrew appreciates your plug of him.
Your plug, yeah.
But no, we can't thank you enough for being here, because this was when you pitched the topic. I'm like, oh my God, yeah, I've never thought of getting ready and all the stuff that leads into it, because it could really derail the day and really mess up the day. And I can in my hand remember, at least 5 times that a wedding was late by 30 minutes to 45 minutes to an hour because of XYZ leading up to it. You know what I'm saying? When that happens, I don't think couples realize that takes away dance time. Everything that gets eaten up in the timeline takes away dance time. So
yeah. Nope. You're gonna lose dance time, or you're gonna spend a boatload of money in overtime, because the rate that your vendor charged you ahead of time is not the same rate that they are charging you to go over later. If you even can. A lot of venues are like, no, this is the hard stop we have. Yeah. Yep.
Noise ordinance. Yep. Yeah, I was going to say the same thing, because a lot of these venues, like we have a lot in our market here that, it's 10 o'clock Sunday through Thursday and 11 o'clock Friday, Saturday. Like some of them are really hard stops on that. So yeah, it just eats up all that stuff. So I can't thank you enough for coming on here, educating our listeners. We really appreciate it, because I, again, would have never thought of this, and this is something that needs to be talked about everywhere with every couple that's out there. So yeah.
I mean, my first thought when I saw it was, you have to set up success in the morning. It's like breakfast is the most important meal of the day, and having a morning timeline is going to help your big day. And that was kind of my thought process when you presented the topic.
Love it.
Well, the pleasure was all mine to be here.
We appreciate that, and we appreciate having you. So, folks, we'll see you on another episode of Now That I'm Engaged, How Do I Get Married? Until next time, guys. Bye. To our listeners, thank you for tuning in to another episode of Now That I'm Engaged, How Do I Get Married podcast.
Brought to you by Fantasy Sound Event Services.
I hope you enjoyed listening to this episode. Please get in touch with me or August if you have any topic you would like us to cover.
Or if you're struggling with your wedding planning, please be sure to submit a question to podcast@fantasysound.com.
I encourage you to check out our other episodes on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you listen to your podcast. And if you're a fan, we'd love if you would subscribe to the podcast and leave a review.
It helps others find our podcast so that they can learn from our guests too. And to everybody listening,
happy wedding planning!